Good evening and welcome to the second of two Beyond the Front Pages for the spring 2019 semester here at Cayuga Community College. This is a show that's brought to you on ARMA, the Auburn Regional Media Access, as well as Spectrum, Verizon, Fios, and it's also played on WIN 89.1, the college's radio station. I'm your host, Guy Cosentino. In December, the Cayuga Museum had a couple of things occur there. One was their longtime executive director, Eileen McHugh, retired after nearly 20 years. It also welcomed a new executive director, KIRSTEN Wise. She takes over that 85-year-old institution, but at the same time she also got some good news about Regional Economic Development Council funds for the CASE labs that are located behind the museum on Genesee Street. And then she's also involved in the DRI, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, to look at a joint campus with the Schweinfurth Memorial Arts Center. We've asked Ms. Wise on to talk about her new post, plans for the museum, as well as to talk about some exhibits, including one I'm finding very interesting, Pioneer Physicians for Cayuga County. Welcome and congratulations on your new job.
Thank you.
So for those who have not been to Cayuga Museum, how dare they? Because we like to get them in the door. We had a conversation about the Canal Society last week. How long has the museum been around?
So we opened in 1936, actually. So we are the longest running historic and cultural site in the city of Auburn, as well as one of the oldest in the entire county. And
what was the museum before it was the Cayuga Museum?
It was a Cayuga Museum of History and Art from the very beginning.
But before that, what was the building?
Before that, so that was the former home of Dr. Sylvester Willard.
And that plays with one of your
It plays in with one of our exhibits, yes.
So you are a not-for-profit? You have a board of directors?
Yes, we do.
How big is your board?
It's a max of 20. Right now we're sitting at about 15.
And what's your mission?
Our mission is to preserve and interpret the history of Auburn, Cayuga County, and the Finger Lakes region.
And how big a staff do you have?
Right now we have one full-time,
That's
myself.
You? Okay.
Yes, and I have 3 part-timers.
And do you have many volunteers?
I do. We have a good group of volunteers, including a lot of our board members. They help us out with a lot of things.
So when did you take over as executive director?
So I took over on January 1st, but I've actually been with the museum since 2013 as a curator.
And so you haven't filled the curator position yet?
So So one of the biggest things that I'm doing is I'm restructuring the staffing that we've done. So historically we've always had kind of a director, curator. If the budget allows, we've had more staff members, but for a long time it's just been the 2. I feel that it's time to kind of change directions a little bit. So I actually have hired a director of development and outreach for the very first time.
Raise money?
Yes, we need to raise some money. So he will be starting at the end of April, which is exciting.
And so you took over for Eileen McHugh. She was there how long?
She was there for 18 years.
And she's moved out. This was a planned retirement on her part?
Oh yeah, it was. Yep.
And she's moved out to Colorado?
She will be.
Will be, okay. Yes. So you were curator. What does a curator, for the 5 years you were there, what does it entail? What's the job entail?
So in general, a curator is really supposed to just be someone who kind of interprets the collection, does a lot of the preservation work, does the exhibits. But when you're a staff of only 2, the curator position is really more of kind of, you wear every single hat, you do everything. But it was mainly
just doing. That's the not-for-profit world.
Yeah, that's the not-for-profit world, of course. So I did everything from, helping with planning the exhibits to doing all the social media, the website, running the Caritas Theater. We just kind of were just basically doing, the same job just to kind of just run the museum.
So where are you originally from?
I'm from Pennsylvania originally.
So how'd you end up in Auburn?
I went to graduate school at Syracuse University.
What was your major?
Museum Studies. I have a master's in Museum Studies. They have a really great program at SU. And I fell in love with upstate New York, and I found the job here, and I stuck around.
So had you been at other museums before?
When
as an employee or as an intern?
Yeah, so when I was in school, I worked at a few different museums throughout Pennsylvania, actually. And then after I finished graduate school, I moved to Lubbock, Texas, where I worked at the Museum of Texas Tech University for a year. And then I came back here.
And so why here?
Why here? Because
why the Cayuga Museum?
I think that the history in upstate New York in general is it's incredible. All of the, so many things happened here. There are so many great little towns like this that just have so many different, pioneers and different things. And I think that Auburn is a really incredible place to be, and just working at an institution that can preserve and interpret its history is just really something that I've found a passion for, and I love it.
So are there museums out there that you just think are the model that the Cayuga Museum can take for? That museums that you love, whether going on as a professional, as a kid, as a student?
I mean, I will tell you what, so I grew up in York, Pennsylvania. And there's, the history of York goes back to actually to the 1600s. So they had a great historical society. I went to a summer camp as a kid, and I saw, a Conestoga wagon where the people they would travel out west in. And it just completely changed my life. And especially, when I went there and I was able to, touch these artifacts and, interact with them in such a, in such a great way, it changed my life. And I think that's probably why I am working in the institution that I am, because it's a similar type situation. So
not for this change for the sake of change. There are items that you have planned, and I know we're going to get into Red Sea and the Case Labs, but are there things that you right off the bat think you need to give some look at, again, because you have a very small staff and right now you're the utility player?
Yeah.
Obviously, hiring somebody who's not a curator and going into development is a major change.
That's a major change for us, definitely. But I think, as far as the programmatic vision is concerned, this year I have, or for the second year, I have done the CNY Emerging Artist Project. So that's something that's new for us.
People may not know what is it?
So that came around because I guess it was 2 years ago at this point. I was talking to a local artist who he was having trouble kind of finding footing in the art world, and he was asking me what it would take to be on display at the museum or how to get a show. And I started thinking about it, and I realized that maybe there are more people out there who are just looking to get a leg up, start to build their resume by having a solo show at a museum. So I put together what became
versus a larger space like next door where you may need double, triple the number of materials.
Yeah, so I just, because the great thing about the museum being in an old home is that all of our galleries are, smaller size, and you can really do lots of different things within the space. So I put together what became the CNY Emerging Artist Project, where I put together a jury of local arts professionals. We put out a call for artists, for people, just kind of throughout the region. I didn't make it just to Auburn and Cayuga County. Last year we got, the first year, over 20 submissions. So I switched out the show every month from March through November. So I had 9 different artists who all had a solo show. It was a really incredible thing.
And do they do an evening where they have a reception?
Yeah, so
so you increase the number of people who walk through your doors.
Exactly, and that was another thing that we're looking at. Our regular daytime visitation is really going down, which is, that's a trend across the board as far as
it's just not
museums.
You, it's museums.
It's museums in general. So I've been looking at doing more evening programming. So each month we open on the 3rd Thursday of each month with a reception. This year I expanded the program. I partnered with a food truck that's parked out on Genesee Street to kind of just give another offering.
And that's
to draw
different
more
than
people.
The food rodeo you've done.
Yes, it's different than that.
So for those who don't know what the food rodeo is, what is it, and B, are you doing it again?
So this year we're switching it up a little bit. We're not doing the same thing again, but a few years ago we were trying to think of new ideas of things that we could do with our Carriage House Theater, which is a renovated carriage house, which has a great, if you open up the doors, it's a great indoor-outdoor space. So we wanted to do something fun, so we had live music. We brought a bunch of food trucks to our property. Then the past 2 years it turned into an Earth Day event. And now this year we're actually doing a different iteration of that. We're doing kind of a hidden history tour of Fort Hill that starts at the Cayuga Museum.
So the food trucks will be there for that?
The food trucks will be there for that.
Okay, and when is that?
That's June 9th.
June 9th,
a
okay.
Sunday afternoon.
So for those who don't know, what days are you open?
So right now we're open Wednesday through Saturday from noon to 5, but between Memorial Day and Labor Day we extend our hours to Tuesday through Sunday, noon to 5.
And what are the hours? What hours?
Tuesday through Sunday, noon to 5.
And is there a fee to come into the museum?
If you're a member of the museum, it's free. General is $6, seniors are $5.
And how about children under the age of 12?
Free.
Free.
Yes.
So one of the pieces of the property, we should say there are three pieces. There's the carriage house, which you've mentioned, the main building, but there's also the Case Labs, which...
The Case Research Laboratory, which is actually a historic site right on our property. So, you know, when I gave the initial pitch, I should have mentioned that we are a very unique institution, that we have, you know, 3 buildings on our property that are all related but completely different at the same time.
Usually you only have one you have to worry about.
Normally, yes.
Or 2.
Yes, yes. And I like to joke, we used to joke that we had more buildings than staff members, but now it's just really...
You do.
One person running 3 buildings is a lot. But the second building is really something that we're going to start focusing on a lot more than we have in the past few years. The Case Research Laboratory is the site where sound was put on film for the very first time in the 1920s by a man named Theodore Case.
And so you would like to see that become the primary focus of the property versus the main building?
Yes.
What does that entail, besides money?
Yeah, besides money. So, you know, we just
We'll get to the money in a second.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, we just started a 3-phase process, which I know that we'll talk about. But the end goal in that is to put in, you know, a world-class exhibit, just to have that historic site be on the national stage. You know, I would like, you know, the Case Research Laboratory and Theodore Case's name to be right up there with William Seward and Harriet Tubman, with, you know, the people who were making, you know, things happen in Auburn. Because I mean, he created an invention that changed the world, and a lot of people who I talk to who, you know, have lived in Auburn their entire lives, they don't know that.
So what would you, in the end, what would you like to see done that, if you walked in today and you walked in let's give you 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years from now, what would change?
So really, I mean, right now it's a permanent exhibit about technology that has no technology in there whatsoever. So obviously that's one of the first things that really needs to be addressed.
So you have a Regional Economic Development Council money. You're getting some of that money. How much is that?
So that's a grant for $53,000.
And what will that be earmarked for?
So that is to create plans with a preservation architect to stabilize the building. So it really is a 3-phase process, because the building, I mean, it was a greenhouse from the 1850s. It was originally built. It was really not meant to be around, you know, almost 200 years later. In upstate New York, obviously with the weather, it's plagued with issues. So we're going to first get the plans to stabilize the building, and then hopefully by next year we will get the funding to actually implement those changes.
So the 57 is mainly for the plans?
Yes.
Would that include stabilization, or is it just the plans?
No, it's just for the plans.
And do you have to have a local match on that?
We have to have a 25% match for that.
Okay, and where are you on that process?
So we just started fundraising for that. We have a little bit of money from our budget earmarked for that, but that's something that we will be going out. The second phase of it is really what we will be doing.
But you need about $18,000.
About, yes.
Okay,
yes.
if I'm doing the math correctly in my head. So the other piece on the property is the carriage house. Most people would know it as, well, depending on your age, it was a place where you got art lessons, or the railroad club was there.
Yes.
It's a beautiful performance space now. You have the pitch that has been there for the merry-go-round. Are they going to be back there this season?
Yes, they'll be back from mid-July to mid-August this year.
And what else do you have planned for there?
So we have lots of different things going on. So we have a spoken word program that we have in there twice a month. It's actually this Thursday night. It's on the 2nd and 4th Thursday of every month.
Who's your speaker this week?
Tony Giroux, actually.
Okay, who wrote Civil War, has written several books on the Civil War.
Yep, so he'll be speaking this week. So that's an
I know David Conley, who was associated with the college.
Yep, he did it last year.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's an ongoing program that we have. It's a collaboration with 2 local groups. The one is called Olive Trees, and one is it's called Aduna. So they're both just like local literary groups that we've partnered with. So is there a cost to go on Thursday night? $3.
And what time does it run?
So it starts at 6 o'clock and it goes till 7:30. So we have a featured speaker for 20 to 25 minutes, and then we have an open mic portion after that for people who want to share their own work.
And what else do you have for the plan for the carriage house?
So we have another program. It's called Classics at the Carriage House. That's a collaboration with CCC. That's the first Monday of every month. Right now there's Zumba classes out there a couple days a week.
I saw yoga is listed today.
Yeah, actually yoga is going to be in the museum.
In the museum,
so that's
okay.
one of the things that I was going to mention, a different way that I'm utilizing the main museum building. But the Carriage House, I mean, right now it's, we have a lot of ongoing programs, but we also have a lot of rentals. It's available to rent for parties and different things, and that's really starting to pick up speed.
So let's talk about the exhibit, because then we'll get into the DRI and other stuff you're doing. You have a new exhibit, Pioneer Physicians. What's it focused on?
So that is, it's focused on the collection of the Cayuga County Medical Society from the 1800s.
So it's mainly an 1800s exhibit?
Yes.
19th century, okay.
Yep.
So it doesn't get into what's going on in the field right now?
No.
Okay. By the way, how many items do you have in your collection?
Our entire collection?
Any idea?
Tens of thousands, honestly. We don't even know exactly how many.
Because you don't have everything on display?
No.
Okay.
No.
So where is this exhibit located?
So this exhibit is located in the first owner of the home, Dr. Sylvester Willard, in the area that he added on to the main building to hold his medical practice.
Left or right of the east or west side of the building, or north?
The east side.
East side,
yeah.
Okay. So Dr. Willard is there. That's why you're putting it there. So what do you have on display?
So right now we have everything on display, from a pair of snowshoes that was used by a doctor who was working.
I was going to ask, why snowshoes?
Because in the in the early 1800s, you were either on horseback, or if you're in rural Cayuga County in the middle of the winter, you were going to help your patients.
Wasn't Uber or Lyft to get you there?
No, there was none of that.
You also have drills.
Lots. Yes, there's a foot-powered dental drill.
Okay.
Which is just, I know. It stands about this tall. It's really kind of horrifying to look at. A lot of, surgical kits from, the Civil War era.
So did all the items come from the Medical Society, or
yes.
did you have some of these materials as well?
So the whole collection of the Medical Society from the 19th century was deeded to the museum, so we already had that.
So they're not a sponsor of this?
No, they are
Do
not.
you get sponsors for shows?
We get, yes, for exhibits we get some sponsors. We don't currently get a lot of sponsors for everything else, which is why I'm hoping that a director of development will help with that.
So do you have other permanent displays that you have? So this is going to be part of a permanent display,
yes.
Am I correct on that? So what other permanent displays do you have?
So right now we have one on Auburn Prison. That's
second floor.
Yep, second floor. We just removed one that had been on display for about 10 years. It was called A Child's World. In general, I think that keeping an exhibit up, 10 years is the absolute maximum. I think, within that, since we have other items in our collection, we can kind of change them out as we go along.
When did this exhibit open, the Physicians?
It actually just opened last week.
And so this will run indefinitely in the sense that you can come see it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you about exhibits itself. So first of all, what future exhibits do you have coming up?
So one that I'm hoping to, my schedule's a little, iffy right now just because I'm, the staff of one. But the one that I'm planning for this year that I'm hoping to open by Memorial Day weekend is called Power of Protest Affecting Social Change. So that's something a little bit different for the museum from what we've done in the past, but we're really excited about it. Is
that something that you have to go out and solicit items to show, or is that items that you have in your collection?
Both, and that's typically what we do for all of our temporary exhibits. We always do a good mix of using items from our own collection and then soliciting loans from other community members or other museums around the area. How
far out do you try to schedule exhibits?
Ideally, I would love to be able to schedule at least a year out, maybe 2. Sometimes, just of course, with transitions happening and things, it's a couple of months.
So when I read a story in the Citizen when you were appointed to this, you talked about changing the nature of putting exhibits together. First of all, what did you mean by that?
What did I mean by that?
Well, go ahead.
I think something that I've been really trying to to look into more is just changing the way that we do exhibits, as in historically it's always been we write a great narrative, we put it up on a panel.
So it's basically a book of the month club selection that if you are not willing to read small type and 200 plus words, you really don't get the gist.
Yeah.
I'm summarizing.
And, yeah, yes, and that's, it's, myself included, changes in society, people are less and less wanting to go and stand somewhere and read something on a wall, whereas, so I'm
So we're talking about a world where there's a lot shorter attention spans. We see it with tweets from the President of the United States to USA Today, where everything can be on the front page and it's short.
Yes.
Is this also are you also leaning to try to get a different demographic walking in the door?
I am.
Okay,
yes.
So who's your new target audience in the long term?
I mean, my new target audience, I think, is people that are, 40 and under. I'm seeing that a lot. I have a lot of, through our art program, we're seeing a lot of younger faces. I have a couple of board members who are in the demographic. I think that, a lot of the people in that demographic, they have, young families, and they're really, I think that that's really the people that I'm trying to target now.
So I tend to go to a lot of museums because I have a 6-year-old and he likes museums, fortunately, but he also likes high tech, which his father doesn't understand, but that's a different story. So how do you compete, because financially it's expensive, compete with a high tech museum versus what you can deliver? And I say this, I was just in Rochester, I went to the Susan B. Anthony Museum. It's not high tech, but the next day I went to the Rochester Science Center, and it's all interactive. How do you compete in that world?
That's something that I have a meeting after this to meet with someone to talk about our plan for how we can start really competing with that. It's something that, we do, it's budgetary, and we have a lot of limitations with our space, with our building. It's hard to get Wi-Fi from floor to floor through those stone walls, and a lot of the rooms, they don't even have adequate power in them. So it's a question that I've been really grappling with.
Now have 3-prong plugs in your building?
No. So, but I definitely have plans. I have a couple of grants that I'm applying for in literally the next couple of days to try to just start small and bring in some iPads and things to just do different types of labels and exhibits. I think it's just good to start small and see what we can do.
So one of the game changers that people have been talking about has just been this downtown revitalization initiative. And while you may not necessarily be thought of as being downtown, the lines have been redrawn for this DRI. So the Schweinfurth and the Cayuga Museum have submitted a proposal for part of the $10 million. First of all, what did you submit?
So we submitted a plan to create the West End Arts Campus. Which we're asking for a little over $2 million, which we know, when there's only $10 million available, we are, it's a large portion of money that we're asking for. But we believe that this will be, completely transformative of the entire West End of Auburn.
So what would you like to do?
So I'm viewing this as we're creating the infrastructure that is needed to support our increased programming initiatives and just increased visitation on the West End.
And is this a joint proposal?
It is a joint proposal.
Does that mean that you would have a joint campus?
Yes.
So in the past there have been discussions about merging the two organizations, and I'm sure you've heard that once or twice.
Yes.
Is that part of this plan, or is that something that may germinate from it or may not germinate from it?
As of right now, there are no plans to do a full merge of the two institutions.
But you would connect each other?
Yes, so we would connect to each other, and we would also we're starting to talk about maybe sharing some services, maybe sharing, a facilities person, something like that. Just, again, starting small with the merger. It's not a merger, but just starting small with doing things, campus idea and sharing things like that.
So one of the thoughts has been to have an entrance from your west side into the east side, I'm trying to say this right, into the Schweinfurth, so that you can go to both, whether it's a covered, and I know this was discussed maybe 10, 15 years ago. Are those types of plans that
Right now, we don't have a plan for connecting the actual, for like walking from one building directly into the other, but this is a lot of, it's a lot of creating the sidewalks in between. They are proposing adding a brand new entrance on the back of their building on the side for easier access in. We're also talking about adding a new entrance on the back of the mansion building, just because right now,
which would make it easier.
Which would make it easier for people to get in.
For your portion of this project, how much is it?
$1 million.
And how much would you have to raise as a local share?
$400,000.
And what was submitted to the governor? Was there a submission of $2 million to the governor?
Yes.
For you? Okay.
Yes.
So you're now waiting for the governor's office to, as we've had, some people would say a gazillion guests here since last June on this, or July. You have to submit that. The governor's office then makes the decision as to which projects, and there were about $13 million
I think
worth
it was
of
about $13 million that they
for
submitted.
$10 million in slots.
Yeah.
That, any idea when you would hear?
They said the decision should be made, made by late June, early July.
And in your view, you said 400,000 would be your lift, or 800? How
400.
Much? 400.
Yes.
So how do you raise as an organization, other than hiring a development person, to do a heavy lift like that?
I mean, we started talking about it. You know, we're hoping to do it kind of the same way that we did when we were raising the funds for the Carriage House Theater. So it was through, you know, a combination of local private support, foundation support. We're thinking, though, with this one, since we're tying in the Case Research Laboratory element of it, we may be able to go after some national money, something that we haven't done in the past. So right now it's just a waiting game. We don't really have our full plan decided yet, but.
So when the governor's office makes the announcement and they say, and let's say they give you either all 200, or excuse me, it'd be nice if it was 200 million. They give you all 2 million or a portion thereof. How long do you have then to raise your portion before you can start really doing this?
I mean, I think we should have up to a year to be able to do it. I mean, obviously, the sooner the better, because as soon as you get it, you can get started. But
and there will be other people, other not-for-profits in the mix, who are all going to be competing for this.
That's kind of going to be one of the tougher parts about it, of course.
Well, and I've heard that from a number of not-for-profits, that they're in the mix, and you'd all be asking the same foundations the same week for doing that. So a couple of just basics as we close out. If you want to become a member of the Cayuga Museum, how do you do that?
So we have membership information right on our website, which is cayugamuseum.org. You can
so
also.
How much is a membership?
Membership, they range from $25 to $1,000.
And what do you get out of it?
You get free admission to the museum all the time. You get reduced rates on programs and special events. If you're an upper level member, you get fun things like behind the scenes tours of all the buildings. So you get a lot of fun things.
So if you could leave our audience with one thought about the Cayuga Museum, what would it be?
It's a really exciting time at the Cayuga Museum. We're on the cusp of a lot of exciting changes, and there's something for everyone there, from art to history to science to yoga to theater. So we're a one-stop shop for everything Auburn.
Well, we want to thank Kirsten Wise for joining us over the last half hour to talk about her new job. Again, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
On that. We'd love to have you back to give us updates.
Sure.
Whether it's Red Sea or DRI related, or new exhibits that you're going to have there.
Sure.
We will be back on Thursday with another set of programs. On Inside Government, we will have our new Cayuga County Tourism Director, Karen Kuhl, who'll talk us about her new job and the work of the Tourism Office. And we'll also have the Auburn Education Foundation's Janie Hutchinson on, who will talk about this year's 5 new inductees into their Hall of Distinction, which occurs on May 17th. We'll be off next week, though Sound Waves will be playing here at the college. But in 2 weeks, we'll have Congressman John Katko in to give us a district in Washington update, along with Assemblyman Gary D. Finch, who will also be in the studio to give us an update on the recently passed 2019-2020 budget. We'll also have Jessica Wrench of the Chamber of Commerce to talk about Leadership Cayuga and their current class and her recruitment efforts for this coming September and October. Doubleday's General Manager Adam Winslow will also be in to talk about the upcoming season of the Doubledays and the new turf field that is almost finished there. In 3 weeks, we'll be bringing you Auburn Superintendent of Schools Jeff Parazola and Business Manager Lisa Green to talk about the proposed Auburn school budget, and as well as City Manager Jeff Dygert and City Comptroller Rachel Jacobs on the city's 2019-2020 budget, which they are in the process of reviewing now. We'll finish off our season with our annual Auburn Large School District Forum on Thursday, May 2nd, so we hope you'll join us for that. Before we go, though, we would like to let you know that you can send us your questions and thoughts for guests to Inside Government or be on the front page. You can send them to cozguytho@aol.com or Inside Government 141 Dunning Ave, Auburn, New York 13021. I'm Guy Cosentino for Cayuga Community College. We want to thank you for watching. I hope you have a good night and have a great tomorrow.